Hi, and welcome to Deep Leadership. I'm your host, John Rennie. Have you ever felt like you're racing through the day, tackling tasks on autopilot, but not really thinking deeply about the bigger picture? In this episode, Dr. Scott Burgmeyer joins us to share how leaders can escape shallow thinking and start making smarter, more intentional decisions. He introduces a practical model that helps you slow down, reflect, and lead with clarity in a world that constantly pushes us to rush. If you're ready to break out of that surface level problem solving and bring a deeper insight into your leadership, this conversation is for you. So, are you ready to dive in? Let's get started. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Scott Burgmeyer. Scott is the founder and CEO of the Become More Group. Over the last 30 years, his firm has completely transformed and optimized hundreds of companies across the U.S., including Google, Procter & Gamble, and Bridgestone. He helps leaders solve problems that prevent their organizations from achieving their full potential. He is co-author of a new book called Think the Road Less Traveled, which helps leaders overcome the common traps of poor thinking. And I am excited to have him on the show to learn from his deep experience. So, Scott, welcome to the show.
Thanks, John. I am very pumped to be here. Of course, not only to have this conversation, but of course, shamelessly plug some of the great stuff we do.
Well, absolutely. As we talked before we press record, you and your company, you've been doing it for over 30 years. And, my hat's off to anyone who's been in business, started their own business and been running it for 30 years. My hat's off. I have a lot of respect for you and the work that you're doing. So congratulations on, having
Yeah,
and you can't be
appreciate
30
that.
years in it unless you're doing really good stuff. So that's why I wanted to have you on the show and talk about it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we do good stuff, and every now and again we do boneheaded stuff. It's okay.
Well, that's true. That's how we learn, right? Making
Yeah,
mistakes. So, well, let's get into it. I mean, we I introduce you. You're part. You've started this the Become More group. You've been running for more than 30 years. What is it that you do, and why do companies specifically seek out you and your team?
yeah. We would look at the Become More group and say we're really an organization that partners with other individuals, teams, organizations to allow them, pardon the tongue in cheek, to become more. Uh, and it's really, on most cases, organizations are coming to us to say, we are at this point, we're currently operating at point A and we want to get to point B. We want to grow, and that grow could be more sales, that could be more efficient, that could be I want better leaders, that could be I've been running my business for 30 years and I'm thinking about retiring, but I don't know who's going to take it over or anything in between.
Hmm.
Most leaders or organizations come to us either because they've heard from someone else, like, hey, you should talk to them. They kind of know what they're doing. Or they're like, we're at this point that we want to take the next step and we have some ideas, but we're not sure. And we'd like a guide, a Sherpa along the way. And our methodology is, we would call it unique. I don't know that it's actually unique. It really is. We're going to understand what you need, and we're going to say, how do we create that solution and co-create that solution together so that we're applying the right pressure in the right way for you to get to that end goal.
Hmm. Yeah, that's one thing you just said is co-creating. Some of the best coaches, that's what they do is they work with their, leadership coaches work with their clients to help them, think differently, but also they have to create it, So this co-creation, I
Yes.
think, is a really important part of it. So if the coach does everything, right, then the player never learns anything, right? The client
Yeah.
never learns anything. So this idea of co-creation, I think, is really important that in the work that you do.
And our philosophy really is, it, if we come in and say, hey, just do this and this and this, number one, we're arrogant.
Hmm.
What do we know? We don't know where you've been. We don't know what you've been through. We don't know what you've tried before. Now, of course, we have some opinions. We have some perspectives of what we think might work, But until we co-create it together, we haven't earned the right to tell you what to do.
Mm. Yeah, I like that. I mean, it's similar to, leadership is, if we're humble enough to listen to our teams, right? And we have that humility to get their perspective, we're going to be a lot better. The solutions are going to be a lot better than if we try to solve it all from the corner
Yeah.
office, right? So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Would you say, I mean, I'm kind of get you on the spot here, but over the last 5 years, are there some common threads that leadership teams are struggling with, or that they certainly need, that they seek out help to try to fix, other than just sort of taking it to the next level? But are there certain things that you see like common threads at all?
Yeah, I think what I would say there's probably three or four that we see the most. Okay, it's strategy. Like we want to be able to execute our strategy better, faster, deeper. That's one. Looking at is our organization designed in the right way?
Mm,
So do I have the right people in the right seats? Do I even have the right seats? We want our processes to be easier, faster, smoother, less defects, happier customers, kind of anything around that. And then we're hearing a lot about uh, kind of emerging leaders, mid leaders, all the way up to the top leaders to say, how do we be more effective?
mm,
Because they're seeing that if I as a leader, if I am more effective and I can connect with my team, they're going to be more engaged. They're going to be more productive. We're going to be more effective. We're going to be more profitable. How do I do that? And it's anything from how do I not be a jerk face
mm,
to how do I just communicate with whether you call it generational things, whether you call it this person who just got out of college, am I hiring the right people? Kind of all of that, which is like a big bowl of Play-Doh there. It, it really is kind of just some of it's leadership fundamentals and some of it's how do you taking leaders to that next level.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I mean, these are, all what you just said are timeless challenges within running a company, leading a company. What you didn't say is AI. You didn't say work from home strategy. You said these are the things that we're trying to do to become better business, which is our strategies, our
Yeah.
people, our leadership. What I love about what you just said is that we get excited about AI, we get excited about certain things, but it's really the fundamentals that matter when we're running a company, right? Because the technology changes, the whatever the exciting thing of the day we comes and goes, but it's really people and strategy and how we execute are really fundamental. So it sounds like the fundamentals are what they're coming to you for.
Yeah, I really like that, John. The reality is it's no different in sports.
Hmm.
If you can't do the fundamentals, you're not going to perform at a higher level.
Yeah.
If you
Yes.
can't do the fundamentals and the fundamentals are just habit, you're not going to be a great player or a great team. It just isn't going to happen. If you have the fundamentals that they are just happen, they're just natural, they're just habit, they just happen day after day, week after week, month after month. When a curveball comes, I like to say it's just Wednesday.
Hmm.
I'm going to hit it. We're going to get on base. I don't like baseball, but I just use a baseball analogy.
Right. Yes, yes, I love it. So fundamentals. So let's talk about one of the fundamentals. You've got a new book. It's called Think the Road Less Traveled, which I like, and I think I know why you wrote it that way. But so tell us a little bit about why now? Why did you want to write this book about thinking?
Yeah, it's a funny story because when my business partner and I, Tammy, is the co-author. When we were talking about books and we were like, we had this idea and we're like, I don't think that's the right idea. And well, maybe. And we debated a little bit and we decided, nope, we're going to go a different path. And then the pendulum swung back and we decided last year in 2024 that we think this is the book to write. And really, what we were observing is people were becoming more and more on autopilot,
Mm,
and they were executing the task in front of them. And in the book, we use the sly comment that their thinking was about as deep as a parking lot puddle. And what we were seeing was people were not in the moment. They were not thinking through context. They were not truly thinking deeply when they would need to think deeply. And they were doing shallow thinking. And what we're hearing as we start to talk about this, people are like, oh my gosh, we're experiencing that too. They're just
mm,
going through the motions. They're not prioritizing or they're not thinking the next step. They're just saying, I have to execute this thing. And I do the thing. And they're like, oh crap, I crashed the car. And so the whole kind of big, hairy idea was how do we provide a model to think?
mm,
How do we provide scenarios on how you could think and think deeper? And really exploring why do people not? Like, what's preventing that? Because it can be natural for people to say, well, they're just stupid. Well, okay, that maybe is a reason, but I will tell you from our research that that's not one of the big ones.
yeah, yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, no, I don't think that people are stupid. But I do see the same trend that you see, which is we have so much on our plate. Like if we get too deep with one particular issue, right, that we feel like that's going to overwhelm us. So we stay shallow in a lot of things just so we can do many things. So
Yes.
we don't do like one or two things really deeply. We do a bunch of things really shallow, with a lot
Mhm.
with that much depth. And I love the expression. I saw that in the book description, as deep as a parking lot puddle, which isn't very deep,
Yes.
by the way.
Which is not very well. I hope it's not very deep.
It shouldn't be. If you're doing things right, it shouldn't be. But yeah, I think that that's certainly a challenge, and I think when we're just going through the motions, like you said, we're not going to we lose out on that curiosity to ask the question, like, what
Yes.
if we did it differently, or what if we change something, or because we're just moving on to the next task. Is that's what it's all about? Is it maybe that there's too much on us that we just sort of stay shallow with everything?
Yeah, I think there is an element of there is a lot on us, and I mean there's a part of it that there is a bit of information overload. I mean that you just start looking at some of the stats out there, and now this some of these stats are probably 4 6 months old now, and I suspect it's different, but it's I mean it's like I forget what it's something like there's 600 or 6,000 new books published every day. I forget how many it's hundreds of thousands of hours are added to YouTube every hour. Like
Yeah,
there is more information than we could ever have.
yeah.
And then the rate of change, just in the last 5 years, the rate of change has gotten 4 times faster.
Yeah, yeah,
So now you pile on, I have all of this information flying at me. I have the rate of change going faster and faster and faster. And then it's really easy to say I'm overwhelmed, so I just need to get the stuff done and I hurry through it.
yeah,
And I'm not even talking then about the people side of of the world.
yeah,
We're just
yeah.
talking about the task, let alone the relationships and complexity about relationships, relationship with my boss, relationship with my direct report, or this person I might want to hire, or oh, this person I might need to vote off the island because they did some boneheaded thing, right? Or anything
Right,
in between.
right.
And so now we have these, and how we kind of approached it based on the research is there's really a handful of personas that drive the shallow thinking.
Mm. Yeah.
And so we can say, well, it's so much data, or we can say, oh, well, I get 200 emails a day, or yeah, but okay, yep, so do we all. It then becomes, how are you thinking through how you handle 200 emails a day? Or how do you handle that conversation with your boss or that direct report? And many times you're just going through the motions to say, well, I'm supposed to have a one on one. So I'm going to go have the one on one. And many times I'm not thinking about the one on one. I'm thinking about what else do I have to do? And I'm not in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm just going through the motions. I'm on autopilot. I'm we're pushing ourselves lower and lower and lower into brain of we're starting to get to lower functions. If you think of kind of brain science, we're pushing ourselves down into the lizard part of our brain.
Yeah, yeah. No, I definitely see that happening. One of the things that when you talk about it, it reminds me of Jim Collins' classic book, Good to Great, and it was
Yeah.
the great companies figured out the things that we're really good at, and they focused all their attention on those things, and they
Mm-hmm.
ignored the rest. Whereas the companies that never went from good to great, they were running around trying all the new fads, and they were trying everything, and they're trying to be everything to everyone, and they sort of never focused in on getting deep on the things that truly made them excellent, truly made them good. And the good to great companies, they focused only, they called it the hedgehog concept.
Yep.
They
Hedgehog
focused
concept.
only on the hedgehog concept, and they did that over and over again to much success. And so I almost feel like that today is that we're trying, I think, to be too much for too many things, and we're not going deep into the things that truly make our companies unique or truly make us or the true issues we should be working on versus the many things that the many urgent but unimportant things that come
Yeah.
into our plate every day.
Yeah. There's a line in his book, and I probably am not saying it exactly right, but it's something like um, great leaders say no to good ideas.
Yes. Yeah.
And am I being discerning in that moment? Am I thinking it through
Yeah.
so that we don't go chase the squirrels and whatever else?
Yeah. 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 Well, so what are some of the things you talk about these personas you have in the book, and
Yeah.
so what
Yeah.
are some of the personas that get us into this shallow thinking?
Yeah, so when you kind of step back and you think, okay, we have these different personas, and hopefully none of the listeners are like, oh, that he just called me out. I'm like, I'm really not calling you out. All
You're
right.
going to
We
be calling
all
me out. I
fall,
know that.
right. We all fall into these. Okay. And I'm just going to cover a couple of my favorites. One is Soundbite Steve. Okay. Think of Soundbite Steve as I just look at the headlines. I read the cliff notes. I see the headline in the news, and therefore I know everything there is to know about the news because I've read the 12 headlines and I'm just going. And I have a really strong opinion because I've read that headline. Okay. And that could be I heard this nugget of information and I've done no other investigation or validation. Is that nugget true or false? Okay.
Right.
So that's soundbite Steve.
Yep.
Okay. Running Rodney. Running Rodney is, yep, got it, go. I'm in execution mode all the time. I'm going to take that piece of information. Yep, got it, go. Yep, got it, go. Yep, got it, go. And I'm just running. As long as I'm in motion, I'm doing good work. Now, am I running down the right street? Am I running down the right sidewalk? Did I just run into traffic? Don't know. Okay. But those are really two of my favorite. And there's, several others, but they're really based on uh, cognitive biases that we have,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we all have them.
Oh, I do.
And
I saw myself in both those characters. So,
yes,
I don't, if your email is, if it takes up the screen, I'm not reading it. I mean,
yes,
right. And that's a problem with me. And I know it is, right.
yeah,
If you're going to spend it, if you're going to spend two or three paragraphs explaining something, I'm done. I'll call you. I'll actually pick up the phone and call a person because I can't read that. That's too much information. I've
Yep.
got, if it's that critical, I want to have a conversation. I can't read that. So to me, I'm what'd you call it? The headline? No, not what'd you call it? The
Oh, Soundbite Steve.
soundbite Steve. Yeah, give me the soundbite. I don't need the
Yes. Yeah.
details.
Yeah.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and the other one I'm thinking is when you were talking about Collins's book, the organizations that were running around and chasing all the latest fads. Well, in her book, that's Terry the Trend Follower.
Yeah.
And her whole thing is like, oh, I just read this book. We need to go do this. Oh, I just saw this thing on YouTube. We need to go do this. And again, you look at each of these seven personas, we all likely fall into one of these.
Hmm.
Okay. And I'll say it here. It's also in the book. If you're currently right now thinking, oh, that's Jim or that's Mary,
Yeah.
they need to read this book. Yes, of course they do. And so do you.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Because we do all fall into this trap. And you know, it's then saying, okay, great, I'm one of those, or I'm more than one of those, or whatever that is. How do I get out of it?
Hmm. Hmm. So what are some solutions that you offer to get us out
Yeah.
of this shallow thinking? What are some
Yeah.
ideas that our listeners can sort of, kind of wet our whistle? But I do encourage, by the way, listeners to buy the book. But wet our whistle a little bit
Well,
with some
yeah,
of the
of course.
solutions.
John, the only way to know is to buy the book.
The only way is to buy the
The
book.
only way to
Absolutely.
know.
Buy my books as well.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Now, so how we, uh, the main thing we really built and the whole concept of the road less travel is the thinking model is the road. It's
Mm,
RODD. Okay. So it's really taking the time to go down the road. And when you look at the road, R is reflect. Okay. So when I have a situation, I need to reflect. O is options. Okay. What are the options? Some of them will be good, some of them are great, some will be horrible, some will be like never, ever, ever will I do that. It's still an option. Then I analyze and then decide and do. So it's reflect, option, analyze, decide, do. And it really is, there are some techniques you can do inside there. Um, there's a set of questions in the book that kind of walk you through what can you do or how can you get better at reflection if that's not your thing. How can you get better at identifying options if it's like, no, I have this one option and we're doing this one option. So each letter has some technique or techniques that you can go through that with. And then, some of them, and I'll just kind of hit on a couple of my favorite tactics. When you think of reflection, which is really the first step of the road, what we find is people don't take time to think.
mm, mm.
And so if you look at your calendar, are you setting aside time to think? And if you're listening to this and you're like, I don't have time to think, I just have only time to do. Well, all right, I can already tell you, you're probably running Rodney, and you're not taking the time to think, and that is okay. That is a choice. And you can then say, can you just carve out 5 minutes or 10 minutes? It's not about let's take a day. Let's take 5 or 10 minutes
Mm,
to just think. Because I'll tell you, if you're not doing it, setting aside an hour, you're going to hate it
mm.
because you're not disciplined enough and you haven't got your brain to the point where you can do that without feeling extra stress. But
Yeah.
can I do 5 minutes or 10 minutes? All right, so I've done that for a little bit. Now can I go from 10 to 15 or 10 to 20? and maybe I can build up to an hour. And then, of course, people I say, well, think about what? Lots of things.
Yeah.
What's working for you? What's not working for you? Okay. Which is really the second tactic is what we call the growth questions. So part of thinking is what's working, and I can make that list. Um, what's not working, and I can make that list. All right, what are you going to go? What are you going to go do differently? And you might take one of those not working things or not going as well as you'd like, and you say, what am I going to go do about that? That's a
Mm.
whole nother thinking cycle.
Yeah. Yeah. It was funny because I'm thinking through, I had a boss once and I wrote about it in a book that challenged me. It was a new boss came in the organization and my company had 70% market share. And the first question I presented, and he wanted me to present my growth plans for the next few years. And I presented to him and he said, "That's great." He said, "What are you going to do to double your business?" That's all he said to me. And I remember saying, "How do I do that? I'm already at 70% market share. I can't double my business, right?" He said, "You're thinking wrong. Go back and come up with a plan to double your business." And I flew all the way to Florida to meet with him, and he sent me away with a task to double my business. And I remember thinking how I was pissed off because I'm already 70% market share. I've done my job. I've grown this business. I've been very successful. But in that question, we went back to my management team and we unpacked it. We were struggling with it, reflecting like, what is he talking about? How can you double your business? And I remember then my marketing manager at the time said, well, maybe we're thinking wrong about what our business is, because we were making transformers at the time. And he said, what if our job is to measure voltage and current? There's all sorts of other devices that measure current and voltage. And he when he said that, like, all the lights went off on our heads, and we were like, and then when we sort of did some investigation, we found that we had, like, 20% market share when we looked at the bigger picture of what the market was. And suddenly it was like, oh, well, we could double our business. When you think it's so it forced us to think. So my question to you is, can we as leaders create situations where we challenge our employees and to think through problems, like give them a challenge like this?
Yes, which is, by the way, John, if you've read the book, that's a great lead in. If you haven't, you're kind of brilliant. All right. One of them, well, one of the tactics is how am I growing others to think?
Yeah.
Okay. And so it is this part of, am I asking more questions than giving answers as a
Mm,
leader? Because if people are coming to me and I'm just giving the answer and I'm just giving the answer, you are now the encyclopedia
yes.
and you will not be able to work to your full potential. And you are actually disabling them.
Mm,
You are disabling their ability to think.
yeah.
And some people listening, the response I usually get, well, you just don't understand. It was an emergency. I get it. Like if
Yeah.
you literally have a fire, that is not the appropriate time to say, what do you all think we should do?
Right.
That is the time to say, pull the alarm, get people safe, right? However, if people come to you and say, we have a 15-minute rule in our organization. Okay. So I'm the technology guy. I'm like pretty good with data. I'm pretty darn good in Excel, and some of those things. And if people are like, okay, I'm not sure how to do this, we have a 15-minute rule. You need to go and investigate and look at options and alternatives. And once you hit the 15-minute mark, if you haven't found a solution, then you can ask me.
I love that.
And my first question always is, what have you tried so far?
Yes.
And if their answer is, I haven't tried anything, I'm like, we're done with that conversation. And I say, great. Once you've tried some things, let me know what you find out. And I walk away.
Yeah. Yeah. You're challenging people to think through a problem, think through a
Yes.
challenge. It's interesting because we want our employees to be more engaged, but then we give them all the answers. Well, how are they ever going to get engaged if we never
Yes.
challenge them to think? and
We're
to try
creating the
things.
cycle,
Yeah,
right? We're
we
creating the cycle of task and execute and task and execute. And there
yeah,
is a time and a place for task and execute, right? There is a time
yeah.
and a place. There's also a place of, hey, let's think through this.
Mm,
Okay, if you did that, what might happen? Okay, is that good or not good? I'm not sure. Great, let's talk it through. Why might that be good? Why might that not be good? What are other options? And I know people will say that takes a lot of time. Yep, it does.
yeah.
It absolutely does. And it is going to pay you back exponentially in the future. So, yes, it takes me 5 extra minutes now. Or, yes, you know what? I can do that faster than they can. Yep, that's true. How many times a day do you do that? Oh,
Mm,
you do that 10 times a day. All right. How long does it take you? Well, it takes me a minute. That's 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes a day every day. What could you be doing with 50 minutes a week?
yes, yes, yeah, yeah. And at the same
And
time,
we're
your employees are feeling challenged. They're getting a chance to bring their brain power to work too, or it's not just the
Mhm.
manager solving all the problems.
Yes,
Love that.
yes,
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. Well, there's going to be we really just scratched the surface of this book, and I
yes, yeah.
really highly encourage listeners that you get this book to really dig into it more, because in a half hour you really can't dissect a book of this caliber. So, but let's just based on time, really, what final message would you like to leave with our listeners right now?
You know, in my mind, the final message is, if you're a leader, uh, and you're leading people, you're leading an organization, I think looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, where do I need to grow? Where do my people need to grow? And what is your next step to take on that path? If you're not a leader of others and you're like, hey, like I'd like to be a leader, but I listen to this podcast because it's good stuff and I'm trying to get there. Again, it's really the same advice, except it's for you personally.
Hmm.
Look in the mirror. Where do you need to grow so that if you want to take that next step, now whether that's formal leadership, informal leadership, or you just want that next job, or you want to, it's taking the time to think through what is my next step, and is that best next step for me and my family and wherever, whatever success is for you.
I love it. That's such a great piece of advice. And again, leaders, doesn't matter where you are in your journey as a leader, you've got to keep growing. It is a never ending, basically, it's a never ending process to be a great leader. So if you're not growing yourself, if you're not looking for ways for your people to grow, then you're missing out. So I think that's a really powerful advice for our listeners here today. Well, Scott, this has been fantastic. How can our listeners find out more about you, your company, and this really unique book?
Yeah, of course, the book is on Amazon. You can go search Think Book, and so that's an easy one. On our website, becomemoregp.com is a great place to just see about the company. We're on LinkedIn, so you can LinkedIn stalk us. Of course, are probably the three quickest ways to connect.
Okay, fantastic. We're going to put links in the show notes for all of Scott's resources. And again, I highly recommend you get this book, Think the Road Less Traveled. Guess what? We are thinking shallower and shallower as leaders. We're trying to take on too much, and there's so much value in deep thinking. This is the Deep Leadership Podcast. You should be deep thinking and should be applying deep thinking to your leadership journey. So I highly encourage you to pick up this book to think more deeply, and I love that. And again, links are in the show notes. Highly encourage you to click on that link and explore that book. If you got a question for Scott, reach out to him. We'll have his LinkedIn profile here, and you can reach out to him, ask him a question. He's the expert. Again, what we do here in this show is we connect you, the listeners, to experts in the leadership space. Scott's one of those, and he's been doing it for 30 years. He's the guy you want to ask. He's the expert in this. So I highly encourage you to follow the links and reach out to Scott, ask him a question, and find a way that you can think more deeply today. So, Scott, I appreciate you coming on the show. It seems like it went really fast, but I learned a lot. And I think that, like others, I need to be thinking more deeply as well in my job. So you've given me a lot to think about today.
Awesome. John, appreciate the opportunity and um, it's been great and it has gone really fast.
I enjoyed it. It's very good. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and share so we can continue to build a world with better bosses. Until next time, this is John Rennie saying take care and lead well.